Namaskaram to all viewers of Jyotirmark. Dear viewers, as commanded by Dhritarashtra, Vidura was about to start his trip to Indraprastha. He had been asked to invite the Pandavas to come and stay at the newly built palace at Hastinapur. Yudhishthira would also be invited to play a friendly game of dice with the Kauravas. Just before starting his trip, Vidura had a second thought and went back to King Dhritarashtra and addressed him like this: O King, I wish to tell you that your decision can lead to the destruction of your race. The motives behind the planning of this game of dice cannot be seen to be of any good intentions. This game will wipe the Kurus off from the face of this earth. Anyway, this is bound to happen due to the sinful thoughts and actions of your sons and their advisors. And now, what you are about to do will be the triggering of that mass destruction. O King, your name will be marked in history for being responsible for this disaster. Once again, I request you not to do this. Dhritarashtra said, Vidura, these are all nothing but your anxieties and illusions. Nothing can go wrong and nothing will go wrong. Everything in this universe is based on God's will, which is also controlled and influenced by destiny. I believe that right now God's will and influence of destiny is in our favor. Dear viewers, hear that blind King Dhritarashtra, out of his blind love for his son Duryodhan, has slipped into a dream world of false and sinful hopes. He believed that Shakuni's fraudulent gaming expertise will help them to win over Yudhishthira in the game of dice, and thus they can snatch away the kingdom of the Pandavas along with all their wealth and then enjoy them all for themselves. Dhritarashtra was daring to do this injustice because he thought that even if something goes wrong also, the invincible greats like Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, Ashwatthama and Karna will keep them protected from the Pandavas. So, now blind with impatience also, Dhritarashtra told Vidura that there is no need for any further discussions. At my command, he said, right now you go to Indraprastha and bring with you that son of Kunti and the rest of the Pandavas. Thus commanded by Dhritarashtra, Vidura arrived in Indraprastha and met the Pandavas at their palace, which was built by the master architect Mayasura. The Pandavas received their father's co-brother and prime minister and chief advisor of King Dhritarashtra with a lot of love and respect. Thereafter, when they were all seated comfortably, Yudhishthira asked Vidura why he looked so tense and worried and whether he has come in peace and happiness. Vidura replied that he has come with a message from Dhritarashtra that the Kurus have built a new palace and the king is inviting the Pandavas to come and stay there and to enjoy their hospitality. King Dhritarashtra is also inviting Yudhishthira for a friendly game of dice. Yudhishthira replied that a game of dice always ends in disputes and quarrels, and so why should they play such a sinful game? Yudhishthira then sought Vidura's advice in this matter. Vidura said that before starting his trip to Indraprastha, he tried his best to convince Dhritarashtra to reconsider his decision, but that king was not willing to listen. Who all will be playing dice with me? Asked Yudhishthira. And Vidura said that it will be with the Gaandhaara king Shakuni, and there are other kings also like Vimshadi, Chitrasena, Satyavrata, Purumitra and Jaya. Yudhishthira said, first of all, I do not wish to play dice, and especially so with Shakuni, as his reputation for cheating precedes him. And those other kings are also equally dishonest gamblers like Shakuni. But King Dhritarashtra is my father's brother, and so I cannot disobey him. And if I am challenged, then I will not turn back also. So it was decided like that, and the next day morning, Yudhishthira and his brothers along with Kunti and Draupadi set off to Hastinapur. They were accompanied by royal escorts and attendants. Seated in the magnificent chariot gifted to him by the Balhika king, with all signs and symbols of an emperor, Samrat Yudhishtira and his company arrived at Hastinapur. And then Yudhishthira, the king of kings, entered the magnificent palace of the Kuru king Dhritarashtra. He was blazing with the splendor of royalty. He was surrounded by the divine splendor of learned Brahmins who accompanied him. He was guarded by the splendor of valor, power and protection offered by his 4 invincible brothers who walked with him. And he was submerged in the celestial splendor of divine grace, beauty and fragrance of his queen Draupadi. Like that came Yudhishthira, summoned by the wicked king Dhritarashtra, and driven by fate and as ordained by time. Then he met and exchanged greetings with King Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, Ashwatthama, Karna, Duryodhan, Dushasan, Shakuni, Shalya, Jayadratha, and many other kings and heroes. Then they offered their respects to Rajamata Gandhari, who was sitting in the middle of her daughter-in-laws like Indrani in Devalok. Thereafter, the Pandavas retired to the luxurious chambers of that newly built palace for rest and relaxation. During this time, Dushala, the one and only sister of the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, visited them with the wives of her 100 brothers. On beholding the divine beauty and fragrance and celestial charm of Draupadi, their faces turned gloomy due to jealousy. Thereafter, those Pandavas did their Sandhya Vandan, and afterwards they enjoyed variety of tasty foods of their choice. By then, performers were ready to entertain them with the best of dance and music till they all slept in the coziest of beds. Next day morning, after going through their usual rites, those Pandavas entered the royal assembly of the newly built palace. They were welcomed by the Kauravas and their friends who were already present there waiting for Yudhishthira's arrival to start the game of dice. After paying respects to King Dhritarashtra and other elders and all others, the Pandavas were comfortably seated ready to play the game of dice. On the other side sat Gaandhara King Shakuni and the Kauravas and their friends. Thereupon, addressing Yudhishthira, Shakuni spoke like this: "O King, the assembly is full and waiting for the game to start. So, let's fix the rules and start the game." Yudhishthira said, "Deceitful gambling like this game of dice is a sin. It doesn't reflect the might of the Kshatriya, nor does it conform to the scruples of morality. Hey Shakuni, why do you still insist on playing this game? Why do you then persuade me to play with you when you can deploy deceit and cheating to win over me?" Shakuni said, "O King, success and failure in this game are decided by the dice. He who has understood that truth and that what is not the truth about this game is not worried about the consequences of the game. The dice can give us gains and losses. That is why it is considered as sinful, but there is no mistake in it. So there is no need to delay this any further. Say what is your stake. Let's start now." "Hey Shakuni," said Yudhishthira once again, "in a war or duel, it is your might and expertise which wins the battle. But in gambling, expertise means your knowledge of taking unfair advantage on your opponent. That is why there is neither glory nor value in being a winner in gambling." Dear viewers, like this, Yudhishthira continued to talk about the deceitful nature of the game and tried his best to demonstrate why they should not play that game of dice. Whereas, Shakuni countered Yudhishthira, saying that there is nothing unethical about it, and kept on persuading Yudhishthira to start the game. At the end of a long debate on the game of dice, Yudhishthira said, "O King of Gaandhara, I do not wish to acquire wealth or happiness through this game of dice. If your intentions are also honest like mine, and if you are interested in playing this game just for satisfying your desire, why don't you play with any of your friends or other kings who are present here? Why do you still insist on playing with me, even after I have repeatedly made it clear that I am not interested, as there is no honor or truthfulness in it? Being a Kshatriya king, I cannot turn back if I am challenged, either to fight a war or to play a game of dice. You are misusing this Kshatriya tradition to make me play with you because of your selfish motives. And you wish to achieve this with your competence in unfair and deceitful playing of this game. The scriptures hold that you should not deploy unfair, evil or wicked methods even with your enemies. And O Gaandhara king, I am not your enemy. So why don't you play with someone else and exhibit your expertise without harming each other?" Like that, when Yudhishthira stripped Shakuni in front of all those who were present there and exposed his wicked intentions, Shakuni used his last weapon and told Yudhishthira that if he is afraid of playing, then he can withdraw from playing this game. Thereupon Yudhishthira said, "Being a Kshatriya, if invited or challenged, I shall not refuse. No one can override God and destiny, so let the game start." "Who is the one who can stake equally with me?" asked Yudhishthira, to which Duryodhan replied like this: "O monarch, I have enough gold, jewels and wealth to offer a stake, and my uncle Shakuni will play on my behalf." Yudhishthira said, "This is wrong. You are deviating from the system. It is like when you are challenged to fight a single combat or a duel, you have to fight yourself, and you cannot ask someone else to fight for you. But I am done with your stands and arguments, as it doesn't make any sense to argue with people who pretend not to see the truth." Then and thus started that deceitful game of dice. King Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, Karna, Vidura, and many other kings and heroes were present in that assembly at that time. Time had kept everything ready. The consequences of this deceitful game of dice will extend to the whole of Aaryavartha, and one day it will lead them all to the divine and sacred battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now it was only a matter of time. A blind king who was internally and externally blind, his son who was jealous, wicked and sinful, greats like Bhishma, Drona, Krupa and Karna who temporarily forgot their dharma and karma. Time had kept them all there as witnesses, and time will make them answer for their mistakes in the days to come, for the deceitful game of dice and the incidents of shame and disgrace which took place thereafter in that assembly, in their presence and in front of their eyes. Bhishma was Swachhanda Mrityu, meaning death cannot approach him without his permission. Similarly, death will stay back till Drona denounces his weapons. Karna was born with unbreakable armor, which will also defy death. Time brought them all together here in this assembly and trapped them and bound them with a thread of karma, which will override and pierce through Bhishma's boon of Swachhanda Mrityu, Drona's weapons, and Karna's golden kavach. Dear viewers, here ends this episode of our summarized rendering of Rishi Vedvyasa's timeless epic Mahabharata. Harihi Om.